Welcome back and a Merry Christmas. Today we are going to be looking at all the new additions for air content for all the realistic pilots among us in the Apex Predator update. So we're going to be looking at the new vehicles, existing planes that got new flight models. We're looking at loadout changes like the R27ERs, the A9Ls for the EJ Kai and stuff like that, as well as just some regular changes that affect the gameplay. So before we get started, thank you to all my YouTube members and my patrons and everyone looking to get this decal right here that you will find on my tail. You can do it by using my discount code down below. You get a discount, I get a cut, and you get a decal as well. Everyone wins, so feel free to use it if you are looking to buy anything. Let's get started with America. First off, we have the tram, and the tram, well, it kind of flies like a tram as well. It is a ground pounder after all. If you're looking for air-to-air combat, this is not going to be the play. It can grind air-to-air quite decently because you do get A9Ls. You can rock up until 4. And in terms of ground ordnance, I don't think it's the best because you are looking at mostly guided bombs. And I think guided bombs are definitely worse than something like a Maverick. But you know, some people prefer something else. And if you do, that's completely fine. Keep in mind that the A6E here, it's not very fast. It doesn't accelerate very well. It does hold its speed okay. And the maneuverability at higher speeds is also pretty decent. But the thing is, the second you start dropping below your threshold of speed where you are maneuverable, you start just kind of shitting the bed. And you will just turn into a brick very quickly, and you will not be able to disengage because you, 1, don't have the speed, and 2, don't have the acceleration. Secondly, we have the F-16A, which is the second one in line. It's the one on the bottom right here, and it has slightly smaller elevators than the other F-16, and it doesn't get the Sparrows. So you are looking at a slightly worse version, but it does have some better options for ground attack. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a, you know, you have to figure out for yourself what you want to fly. If you are looking for air-to-air and only fly air RB, you can fly the ADF. If you go for ground RB, this one is definitely superior. Keep in mind that these smaller elevators here are going to hinder you at higher speeds. However, at very low speed, it actually becomes more nimble because the weight offset just becomes a little bit more important. This thing is 300 kilograms lighter, which doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, it will definitely be noticeable if you start measuring it. The F-104s here, I mean the F-16s, they fly very much like an F-104, however, but you can actually go low speed. Once you start dumping your speed and you start getting past the compression rate or the compression area, you can actually start dogfighting people quite nicely, and you can hang with almost any plane in the game without much issue. And that's mostly because of the absolute metric shitload of thrust this thing poops out. And you're just going to be able to go vertical with almost everything. Keep in mind, you are going to lose a lot of positioning early on if you don't slow down properly. And if you slow down too much, you are instantly energy trapped for at least a few turns until you start getting that advantage back again because you simply have so much thrust. And then we have the FU4B, which gets a new engine basically. It gets updated. You now have a third supercharger gear, so it's going to be a lot better at higher altitude. And the power output also went up. This thing is now going to be an absolute menace of a plane, unfortunately for us. Or at least fortunately for the rest of the matchmaker. The guns just got nerfed a few patches ago, and the A&M trees are definitely not as potent as they once were. Then we go to Germany. They don't get much, but the first one is going to be the MiG-21 BIS. We all know the MiG-21 BIS here. It's definitely for air-to-air combat. It's an okay pickup. I think it's one of the better ones considering the other planes in this line. The G91R4 and the SPSK aren't exactly stellar, but it's also just a MiG-21 BIS at 11.0. It's a carbon copy of the MiG-21 BIS SAAB. And, well, there's not much to choose from here because you will only have the option to carry a few set of missiles. First off, R3S, R3R, not very worth it. R13M and R60M. I think that the R13 definitely has its use, so I like to carry 2 of those, and I run the dual pylons with R60MKs, which are simply just copies of the R60Ms. All aspect R60s, they are very flare hungry. They're not horrible, they're definitely pretty maneuverable, and they work, but they're not A9Ls, and you will definitely notice it. Ground ordnance is not the best here, but we have another plane for that. We have the Tornado, and the only use this thing will have is air to ground. And if you haven't seen my Tornado video on the British variant yet, well, you'll know. You have to watch that first to see just how it pains me. Even thinking about it just hurts me. It's very painful to fly if you try to fly it like air to air. The issue is if you are stock, and if you are someone that hasn't actually spaded this thing with GE, you don't get any bombs, and you are going to be flying with two AIM-9Ls and absolutely unusable guns because of the rudder right there. So if you want to make the argument that it's a ground pounder, that you have to kill pillboxes, bombing bases and stuff with it, you're not going to have a very great time because you are simply not able to, other than spraying your guns at some lighter targets. So this thing is basically dead on arrival, but you know, Germany needed a rank 8, so that's exactly what they get. Other than that, here the ML, and this also goes for the MLD and the MLA, it actually gets a different set of missiles now, and you can actually run R60 MKs now instead of regular R60s. The only thing is right here that you can still do it here, but if you create a loadout and you try to put the R24T together with the R24R, oh, you're actually able to. But the Russian one, you are not able to anymore, which we'll demonstrate right here. And we all know the MLD, it's very, very strong. And it now gets some all-aspect missiles, which I think is definitely welcome, considering almost everything has it. As you can see right here, the MLD is now not able to switch these anymore. You are not able to carry one of each. I'm not sure why it is that the German one can do it. I feel like it's an oversight, but I might be wrong on that regard. It also gets R60Ms now, and that is definitely welcome. And then we have the MiG-23 ML, and the ML is essentially an MLA, which is slightly worse than the MLD because it doesn't have the slats that it has, but for a premium, it's probably one of the better 11.3s in the entire game still. So I think in terms of the wordness, that's not a word, but you know what I'm saying, how worth the MiG-23 ML is, it's definitely one of the better premiums that you can get at tier 8, probably the best. The thing is, you don't really need to buy a tier 7 premium for Russia because you have so many planes you can actually fly out. You have the Su-11 on sale, which is like 4,000 GE. You have the Su-7, which you can just bomb bases with, not really enjoyable. Su-25, a little bit more usable in terms of air-to-air as well as air-to-ground. It's an amazing grinder. I don't think it's an amazing plane, however. You're mostly looking at just slinging R60s at planes that don't have flares. A little bit boring for a lot of you, but you can just full send in it and you will get a good chunk of RP. And then you're able to get into rank 8 or rank 7 and you can just talisman the MLD or the MiG-21 SMT. And then you don't really need to buy a $70 premium right here. Now if you do run to or you wait for this thing to go on sale that it will sell for 35, then it becomes a little bit more worth. But until these things go on sale, they're all a little bit of a cash grab. MiG-29, well, we all know this thing, one of the crown jewels of the patch, just like the F-16. This thing flies almost the opposite of the F-16. It's a lot more nimble, but it has less power. The thrust weight of this thing, however, is still ridiculous. It will just dump more speed in these slower fights, and in a 1v1 you will still hang with almost everything. F-16, it's very close, I still need to test it. You will see a video where we duel each other in MLD, MiG-29, to the F-16, compare them and then see who wins. And then we will also put them up against some other planes. Just stay tuned for that. It will come eventually, you'll just have to wait. The MiG-29 is much more enjoyable to fly, I think, opposed to the F-16. Even though the F-16 has slightly better missiles overall, the thing is that the MiG-29 now gets these things. And you're not ready for these. The MiG-27 or the R-27ER are absolutely nuts. I don't think I can put into words just how nuts they are. I will make another video on this thing very soon here. I already have the footage, I just have to record the voice. But it's really, really stupid. These missiles are crazy fast. They lock on very nicely. They don't really get notched that badly. The only issue is getting a lock on with this radar. The radar set of this thing is kind of shitty. It does work. And once you get a lock, it's actually pretty potent. The issue is locking up what you want to lock up. But yeah, MiG-29, probably in my eyes at least, the more enjoyable plane over the F-16. But they're both extremely strong right now. But the power creep isn't as bad as we were expecting when it got added on the dev server. And no, it still doesn't need R-73s or... yes, R-73s, especially with these now. These two missiles are probably the best long-range missiles in the game. And R-60Ms are more than enough to fill in the blanks for the rest of the pylons. The MiG-23 ML, just to go back here, because I didn't actually cover what it's good at. It's fast, it accelerates well, it's very agile, and the R-24s are some of the best missiles in the game as well. So you are going to have a pretty decent time flying this thing. But again, I will make a coverage of all the premium vehicles in one video, where I will cover in 1 to 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes for every vehicle, what they're good at, if it's worth it, and how you can actually maybe make a more efficient way of grinding, but that will come once it comes. It will expect it somewhere in the next week. Next up, we have Britain. It doesn't get much. We have the Tornado GR1, which, I mean, it's the exact same thing as the German one. Well, it's actually quite a bit worse. It's slower and has a bit less thrust. It's painful to fly, and again, if you haven't seen the video that I made on this thing, I highly recommend you to check it out, and you will see exactly what I mean. This thing is an absolute shitboat, and again, if you want to start ground pounding, you better start unlocking some stuff first, because the bombs do not come stock. And then we have the F4 J UK. Well, it's the exact same one as we find in the American tech tree, except it gets sky flashes instead of the AIM-7Fs. And of course you get a Vulcan instead of the Colt. Now the Phantom here is a little bit of a sad plane, but at least you get a pretty good pulse Doppler radar, as well as the sky flashes. Whereas Japan is a little bit less lucky, but more of that in a second. The Sea Harrier here I don't actually have yet, so I'm very sorry for that. But it can carry 4 AIM-9Ls, and you have the same airframe as the Harrier GR3 at a full higher BR. But I think that's completely fair, considering that it gets double the missiles, as well as the same but all aspect. Some of the best shorter range IR missiles in the game. And at 10.7 I think that is completely fair. Looking at the GR7 that was once 10.0 or 11.0, that got updated very quickly. That's for a good reason, and this is almost in the same boat. But the airframe is quite considerably worse than the GR7. So at 10.7 I think with the current compression we have going on, I don't think it's much of a problem. Next up, as promised, we have Japan, and Japan gets one of the worst 11.3s or 11.0s in the game. It's the regular F4EJ. People complain about the F4F in the German tech tree. Well, let me tell you, this thing doesn't get the Agile Eagle wing, so it's a hard wing Phantom at 11.0. This thing does not turn whatsoever. It's not exactly enjoyable to fly, and it's just simply not really worth it, especially considering there's really nothing to grind here. Because the EJK is the only thing you can get, and it's the exact same vehicle, except with different missiles. You're only looking at AIM-7Es on this thing, together with, with this thing. They have the same skin, so it's kind of tripping me up. This thing, it only has the AIM-7Es and the AIM-9Ps. They are very close to the AIM-9Js. Well, actually, they are identical, and the E-Sparrows are simply not that great. Now, you can jettison your stuff off. It's more okay because you can carry all 4 of them. If you don't need them, you can instantly dump them off. Before, they would just be dead weight if you weren't able to shoot them off, and it would weigh you down quite drastically because they're almost 200 kilogram a piece. Not almost, they're like 230 actually. So that's almost a ton of missiles strapped to your belly that you will not be able to use in most of your matches actually, because you're not really able to push head-ons with people because the AIM-7Es don't have the most range. You don't have the best radar. And very often you have to start going defensive before you even get into the dogfight. And let me tell you, you don't want to get into a dogfight with the F4EJ ADTW. It's not a fun experience. And then the F4EJ now gets AIM-9Ls. Not much to say here. It's the exact same vehicle, except with the F-16 radar, as well as AIM-9Ls, and now AIM-7Fs. So the loadout on this thing is one of the best at top tier, but your flight model is also one of the worst at top tier. Let me actually change that to air realistic. So a bit of an L plane, but the weapon set on it is absolutely amazing. And the reason I'm running a gun pod, that's not because I run it in the game. I do not, I just run the internal one. Next up is China, and the MLU here is the exact same stuff as the American F-16 ADF. However, it gets slightly more flares. The only issue is, well, let me tell you, these teams are absolutely terrible. So don't even think about having fun in this thing. You're not gonna have much. It's not down to the plane. It's because the teams suck absolute balls right now, and you are really not gonna have a very great experience. The F-16 MLU is probably the best F-16 that we have in the game right now for air-to-air combat. However, it's in some of the worst teams, which is really not helping it. J7D here, we are looking at a MiG-21 MF with a stronger engine and better missiles. It gets the PL5s and the PL7s. Now, it's a little bit of preference which you want to take. The PL7 here is a magic one, and the PL5 is a plane that you are very familiar with. It's the missile you find on a lot of the Chinese or Taiwanese vehicles. Or is it only the Chinese? The J7E and the J8, they both have the PL5s, they're very fast, they accelerate very quickly and they burn out very quickly, which makes them kind of like shooting stealth missiles at people, and they catch a lot of people off guard. Probably some of the best IR missiles in the game, however they're not all aspect. Neither are the magic ones, they're a lot more maneuverable, but they're also a little bit easier to spot because they burn longer. You have to shoot them at a shorter range and you can't really snipe people with it. You can't really snipe people with them, so they're a little bit more susceptible to being flared. However, the magic ones are also more resilient to flares, but they're also more likely to be flared because people see them. So, you know, it's a little bit of a trade-off. Do you rather get the missile that ignores more flares, but is easier to see and therefore be flared? Or do you rather have a missile that's flared easier if it's spotted, but it's less likely to be spotted? If that makes any sense, I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a convoluted topic. But it's preference on these missiles. PL5 is probably better in most scenarios, but the magics are good in almost every scenario as well. So it's a little bit of a trade-off. Definitely a bit of experience. I just run 2 of each, and then I can choose whatever I want, given the situation. Italy gets another Tornado. I don't have it in my lineup right now. I'm sorry for that. ADF here, it's the one with the bigger elevators. It's just the exact same thing as the MLU as well as the F-16 ADF. However, this thing doesn't get my wingtip stuff on, and I haven't equipped my weapons yet. But also just identical, but for the Italian tech tree. Then we have the F-104 STAF. I mean, it's an F-104S, it's an F-104, it's fast. F-104 with the best engine, it's also the heaviest, it also turns the worst, but you do get 6 AIM-9Js, as well as the Vulcan. You can run the radar missile, but then you don't have the Vulcan anymore, and it's definitely a bit gimped, so I don't recommend you to do that, but it's all up to you. It does get countermeasures now, which is nice, and so does the one in the tech tree, which is for some reason a rank lower, because, you know, the only reason this thing is rank 7 is so that they can sell you a rank 7 premium, but, you know, I'm not going to go over that again. The Tornado here, I think it has the nicest skin of them all. But, I mean, that's really, these things, I wouldn't fly them. Exact same story as the other 3. That's just not very good. Next up, we have France. And France gets a few new vehicles. It gets the Mirage 2000D, which is a Mirage 2000 without guns. Yeah, it's a ground attacker. Don't recommend you to get this thing unless you fly it in ground RB. And for all the people that are going to be grinding the Mirage 2000, the regular one, the F1C is definitely not a bad bet. However, right now, the thing is, it's still rank 7. So if you do have the Milan, or if you are planning to buy the Milan during the sales, I still hate the Milan, and I still hate saying that it's definitely worth the pickup. It's not very future-proof. Keep that in mind, because the Mirage 2000 is almost 100% going to rank 8 eventually. So keep that in mind if you're buying a premium. This thing, however, right now is only 25 bucks. I think, or 30, it's 30 bucks. And you can get a lot of RP very quickly with it. But if you are looking to fly it as a fighter, you're going to have a pretty shitty time because you only have 2 AIM-9Bs. Together with the fact this thing does not turn whatsoever, is not comparable to the other Mirages at all. It's definitely very fast. The issue is you don't have all aspect. You don't have good countermeasures. You don't have countermeasures at all, actually. And there's a lot of all aspect missile boats in that BR range. So you are going to be struggling a little bit. Other than that, there's really not much to say here, other than the FVU-7, which now gets the same engine as the FVU-4B. So you get a more powerful engine, opposed to before where it was the F4U, the 4.7 version engine at 6.0 because of the ground ordnance. Now this thing gets almost 3000 horsepower engine with a 3 supercharger gearing, which is pretty good. The issue is again that the guns are just not that amazing. The Corsairs also turn a little bit worse at higher speeds, which is a bit of a shame, but it's also completely fair, considering they did get quite a buff with the engine after all. Next up is Sweden, and Sweden gets a few things here. We are looking at the J35XS, which is basically a J35D with 2 extra missiles, 12 flares, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on the Drakens, any flare is very much helpful, but you do lose a singular gun. Now the singular gun really isn't that much of an issue with these planes, because most of your kills will be the missiles anyway, so getting 2 extra missiles here is very welcome opposed to losing a gun. I would take this trade any day of the week. This thing is basically pay to win because it's the exact same vehicle, except, well, you pay for it and it's simply just better. The only difference is that it's negative is the 1 less gun, which isn't that substantial anyway. So, I mean, really. It's a good pickup, probably one of the better grinders. So definitely worth it. But there's really nothing to grind here other than the JA37D, which I made a video on yesterday. It's definitely a plane. I can't really say much here. A lot of countermeasures. You get a lot of missiles. You get 6 AIM-9Ls if you want so. You can also bring the normal radar missiles, but they're not very good. So I don't really recommend them. I just run the 6 AIM-9Ls. And it's not 11.7 material. What can I say? It's not bad. It's decently maneuverable, but I don't think that this thing deserves to be 11.7. But hey, Gaijin obviously thinks differently, so what can we do about it? And these wheels still look like a pair of bicycles strapped to a vehicle. But yeah, the only difference really is the AIM-9Ls as well as the flares. Not a bad plane, but it won't win any rewards either. And then we go to Israel, which is a little bit sad. We have the F-16 Nets, which is simply the worst version of the F-16. But it only has... It's just the... what's it called? I forgot the name. This thing. The regular one, the F-16A, is the ground attack version. So for air-to-air, this is really not worth it. And the Kafir Canard is one of the worst 11 or 10.7s in the game as well. You only get 2 missiles. You only get the 2 DEFAs. Not a great experience here. And the thing is that the Kafir C7, which is actually pretty solid in terms of the flight performance and stuff, it doesn't have the missiles to really contest. And everything is getting Magic 2s, PL7s, Magic 1s, Magic 2s. You know, everything is getting pretty damn good missiles nowadays, and this thing is still stuck with AIM-9G. So I think that's a little bit of a shame, considering Israel here really doesn't have much. So do with that information what you want. The Nets is simply the worst F-16, and there is really no alternative here other than the Kafir. So I mean, And then you have the Kafir Canard, which is one of the worst 10.7s in the game. So as long as they get nothing here, I wouldn't get the Canard. But, you know, you can always choose to do so if you really want to get everything, because it's definitely a better experience than the A4E and the LF Mark 9 if you want to grind out the entire tree. Because if you get this thing, you also need the Talisman one of these. And this is kind of shit. This thing is horrible. The Kafir C7 is okay. And this thing is also okay, but right now at 10.0 without countermeasures, you're not gonna have a very great time. So there you basically have everything new. We're gonna look at some small minute changes as well. Let's look at some general changes as well. We have fuel tanks now, and if you want to know how to drop them off, where you can, one, wait until they run out, they will jettison themselves, and if you type in jettison or jet, it will start popping up already. Just put it somewhere where you don't accidentally bump into it and dump your fuel off. But it's definitely welcome here. You can run a little bit less fuel with a fuel tank. And if you then take over, you get pounced by someone, you can just dump it. And you're instantly a lot lighter. So you don't have the penalty of dogfighting someone with all the fuel that you wanted. So you can kind of plan a little bit more. You don't have to take a full fuel tank. You can take whatever you want and then add the fuel tank onto it. So you can just play min fuel with a fuel tank. It gives you a lot of performance if you want to take off, and if you don't exactly know where your enemy is. Once you take off, say it's 1v1, you both take off. You take off with min fuel and a tank. The second you get into the fight, you drop your tank and you are now min fuel, and you are not that much at a disadvantage as before. Say the guy pounces you upon takeoff. You can then instantly dump it, you're instantly a lot lighter, and you don't have to worry about all the internal fuel that you have. And there is also some new radar modes now. You have SRC PW, which we all know, TWS, which we also all know, but we have a new one now, which is SRC PW HDN. And as you can see on the bottom right there, it's not rasterized. So if I zoom it in, there you go. The first 8 or so kilometers, you can actually not see your enemy in. So if you want to lock someone up in that area, you want to go to the regular one. However, this one is slightly better at longer ranges, which is nice because the missile set that we have together with it is absolutely nuts. Let's lock this guy up. 13 kilometers. That missile is going to be on its way, and it's going to have a very easy time tracking it in. The thing is, once it starts getting within range, there you can see it's now in the blind spot. Once you have the lock, it will maintain the lock on the guy. However, if we get a little bit closer here, I can lock him up. We are now in the HDN. As you can see, I maintain the lock. It's a little bit more iffy. It's a little bit easier to notch. But if you break lock at any point and you try to regain it, you're not getting it. If I go to the regular pulse Doppler, I will be able to get it now. There we go. If I then switch over to the HDN, sometimes it breaks, sometimes it keeps. But if you get within those ranges, you cannot lock them up again. And if you want to lock someone up in that dead spot, in that blind spot, you need to switch over to the other system. So if I now try to lock up on this guy, I get a lock very easily. Let me slow down a little bit. Right behind him. There we go. Might be a little bit too close. He's now faster than us, I think, so it won't let me. There we go. I can lock this guy up. And if I then switch over to HDN. No, I meant HDN. So I'm gonna lock him up. Go to HDN. It breaks lock. It basically only works in a head-on. But there you have it. So, HDN better at long range, especially in head-ons. Kind of fitting with the name, isn't it? But you can't lock people up if you don't already have them locked up with the radar mode if they get into that blind spot. So you need to be careful of that. It's all a little bit finicky. We're all trying to figure it out still. But these new missiles here, the 27 ERs, are definitely nuts. But you'll see more of them very soon here. And that's basically all I have for you today. I'll see you all tomorrow again with the J35XS video. If you are looking for more changes, they're all in the description. Everything is listed there. And if you're looking for something specific, you can always just press Ctrl F and you'll find exactly what you need. So thank you all for watching. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and I'll see you all in the next one.